That's such a great question. So we saw a big gap in the marketplace. So first of all, at the time, so back in 2018, you had the clean beauty care movement. You had
Hmm.
clean products, cleaning products and household products. And it hadn't really reached personal care. It hadn't reached period care yet. And so we really saw this as an extension of that movement. So there's these macro dynamics happening, right? Where people were turning to, less products with less chemicals, ones that were better for our bodies that didn't have these endocrine disrupting chemicals, and people were focusing more on their health. Um, the second thing is that we saw this gap in the marketplace where you really had in branding kind of two sets. And that was the older traditional brands where they really had these pinks and pastels and, women in white dresses frolicking in fields when they were showing it in their advertising. And then you had these newer brands that were kind of relying on what I call blood and body parts, shock value to speak to their customers. And we said, no one's talking to the middle mainstream. We really wanted a brand that just felt clean and elevated and dignified. I was a woman in my 30s at the time, an educated woman with 5 daughters, a mother. I didn't necessarily want my daughters feeling patronized, by the older brands or having the shock value of blood and body parts. That's nobody really loves seeing that. I wanted something that helped them feel dignified when they're on their periods. And I have a lot of opinions as a founder, and I have some pet peeves around these advertisements that show periods as an annoyance, something that's shameful, something you have to hide and tuck up your sleeve. Like, to me, the menstrual cycle is a sign of vitality and of health. And it's just something that we need to understand and work with. And it's a beautiful cycle that emulates the cycles of the earth. And, I wanted to show that showcase with and compare Mother Nature to the beautiful cycles that we have in our human bodies and that power of Mother Nature. So I wanted to showcase that through our brand. So through our imagery, everything really reflected the natural landscape and really had an elevated tone and feel. And I love that you showed our package there, that you have one. But we also wanted it to be able to open up like a high-end lipstick. And then inside you have the cups that are just on a pedestal and really showcase for the clean, wonderful product that they are. And, we'll get into that, but that's really what got us into Target. It's because of our brand and our voice. The other thing I'll say, because I'm a writer, very much into messaging, matters so much to me, but we made a very deliberate brand voice too. We said, we want the voice to be both authoritative and approachable. Because like you said, you didn't hear conversations around these products. And we knew that the key to unlocking these products is just having real, straightforward conversations without the taboos, without the shame. But also, not treating them with levity either, but just being straightforward. And like a fun friend, they had to, have some cleverness and some fun in there. So we actually called the brand voice your best friend's older sister. And that's because when you're starting your period for the first time, you may be talking to your best friend and maybe they haven't started yet. They don't really know what's going on. You don't always want to talk to your mom, right? That's a little lame. And so that best friend's older sister, well, she's trendy, she's cool, she's in the know, she's savvy, but she's also fun and approachable. So we developed that voice from the get-go, and it's been really, really great in being able to have permission to speak in this space and provide a safe place to be able to talk about it in a fun way, but also very straightforward with education.
I hear that in all of your messaging. I definitely see it, the dignity, everything you were talking about. I'm going to actually call your brand voice the slumber party voice, and here's why. Here's why, okay? So I grew up in a Catholic household. I had 12 years of Catholic school, both grade school, high school. Periods were nothing but shame. There was absolutely no conversation. I had 2 sisters. We never talked about it among ourselves. I can't even remember what my mother even told me. And she doesn't listen to the podcast, so I could just say this without shaming her. She didn't know better. I mean, she grew up in the 40s and 50s. But here's the thing. It was nothing but shame. And I remember the night that I learned what a tampon was and how to use it, because it was at a slumber party. I was in grade school. Girls had started getting their period. Unfortunately for me, I was a late bloomer. I had no idea what they were talking about. And one of the girls was going to use a tampon for the very first time. And it was like a big event for us. She goes into the bathroom. We're all in there. We're all trying to figure it out. And Cherie, it was so weird, but it was fun. It was fun because we were all doing it together. And then when my period finally came, I think it was probably 3 years later, I knew what to do, and I was so grateful. So I love that now on social media, we can see that. Like, we have our best friends. We have, like you said, our older sisters. We have our slumber party moments. So girls aren't sitting there in this silo of shame thinking, I don't know what to do. My mom can't approach it. School's definitely not telling me about it. And now they have these better options that you're bringing out. So first of all, thank you. This is so fun and invigorating to see. And like I said, I can't wait for my grandnieces now, the world they're growing up in, because it's so different for them. They're not going to go through what I went through, which was just, I don't know what's happening with my body, but nobody wants to talk about it. So it must be really bad.